In our very first story, Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu has indicated he is going about his work despite a court action challenging this appointment. Former Deputy AG Dominic Ayine says Mr. Amidu is ineligible to hold the office, arguing that at age 66 he is beyond the retirement age and therefore cannot hold public office. The Supreme Court panel hearing the case on Thursday dismissed an application asking that it allows additional documents to be filed. Justice Gabriel Poaman turned down Dr. Ayine's request, saying it lacked merit. There is more in the following report.
Former Deputy Attorney General Dominic Ayine was represented by a former Attorney General herself, Marietta Briapia-Opon, as well as lawyer Tony Letha. Deputy Attorney General Godfrey Yeboah-Dame represented the state as the leader of the legal team, whilst the Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu represented himself as a defendant in this particular matter. So Justice Gabriel Poaman first asked that lawyer Letha moves the motion asking for permission to file supplementary statement of case. This was opposed by Godfrey Yeboah-Dame, whilst lawyer Letha had argued that the rules of the court allows him to file such additional documents, and in fact the court has the discretion to allow that to be done. Godfrey Yeboah-Dame insisted that was not the position of the law. A Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu said that they indeed were breaching the procedure of the court, and that instead of coming over to the court to ask the court for permission to file that application, they have rather filed the application, have now come to the court asking that the court uses discretionary powers to allow them file those additional documents. So Justice Gabriel Poaman ruled that the application lacked merit and thus dismissed it. For Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu, he is going about his work despite the fact that the substantive matter still persists.
It is not. I've been sworn in and I'm the Special Prosecutor. And
so far, are you getting all the resources that you need?
I am going on with my work, please. I can't discuss official matters to the press, please.
So you can assure us that it's not affecting your work?
I am doing my work. I am doing my work. Haven't I come to court?
A date for the substantive case that has to do with whether Mr. Amidu is qualified in terms of his age to hold public office is still pending before the Supreme Court, and a date is yet to be fixed. Reporting for Joy News from the Supreme Court, my name is Joseph Akable.
Interior Minister Ambrose Derry has condemned the beating up of Joy News reporter Latif Idris by police officers last month. The assault by about 4 officers at the police CID headquarters during the arrest of the Deputy General Secretary of the opposition National Democratic Congress left the reporter with multiple injuries, particularly to his skull. While condemning the attack, Mr. Derry cautioned journalists to identify appropriate channels of contact in volatile situations to prevent confrontations. He's been speaking on the sidelines of an event organized by the UNDP to launch toolkits for tackling extremism on the continent.
I think that's most unfortunate. You know, in the collaboration, we need also to do a lot of knowledge transfer, and whether this government is not in favor of any member of the press being tortured. We'll be the last. I mean, we've benefited from it. And you do know Mr. President is one of those who started opening the, pushing back the frontiers for this. What I think happened in that time was a misunderstanding of the various rules. When you go to an area where the security forces are acting, officers are acting, you need to identify the right person to talk to. We have PRs among them who would react to you. But if you go to the frontline actor, some of these unfortunate situations happen. That's not to say that we agree with what he's saying, but we are saying that we could work together and edge together. So we condemn what happened, but we would like to say that you should engage the right people. The man at the front is told to push back people and secure the place. That's what he knows. So a microphone is not part of his, instructions. And you do know that in spite of the fact that I'm the head of political head with authority of the security agencies, the decision to arrest or not to arrest on the spot is that of the police. So at that stage, we would encourage, the police is doing very well, opening up now on TV and that's what I'll encourage the IGP to increase this interaction in the bid to letting the media understand the roles of the various police people and to build very good collaboration, because we need the media. Without the media, we cannot make it. I've always said that the security is improving because all stakeholders are playing a part.
He's also been emphasizing the need for collaboration with local communities, women and groups to deal with emerging security issues.
It is inclusion that we want to build on, and that has contributed also to the fact that we haven't had extremism. But we have no illusions that we are an island, and therefore if we are surrounded by all these activities in Burkina Faso, the Cote d'Ivoire, yes.
What's the preparedness of Ghana to empower local communities, as we heard His Excellency say, to first of all be the first responders when it comes to some of these issues?
Thank you very much. I think that first of all I need to agree with the situation that we need the right narrative to communicate to our populace so that they are less vulnerable to extremist tendencies and activities. But I think that we've been through a recent spell of security challenges, and I think that the media and all other stakeholders played their part when we had an engagement over whether we were losing the fight. Was it right to go anti-Galamsey? Was it right to go anti-Langards? And you did see how all the stakeholders, including the media, had formed associations to try to get to the people, and it positively impacted. Recently, when we had a number of armed robberies coming together and there was a matter of concern, we got together again, and because the communities reacted positively, the police were able to pick most of the people, and as you realize, it has gone down. Just 3 days ago, we are dealing with another aspect of lawlessness, which has to do with accidents and deaths. So I can say yes, Ghana, because of the democratic culture, you have a vibrant media, you have people in Ghana who are prepared to ask questions and to come forward. Ghanaians are not intimidated by it. You recall that all this, the foundation is the democratic institutions, the democratic culture, is the economic development to ensure that there is no exclusion to reduce vulnerability. All these are working together here.
Well, Special Representative and Head of ECOWAS, Mohamed Ibn Chambers, wants extremism to be tackled from a multi-sectoral perspective. He believes intelligence sharing is key in the process. He also commended the UNDP for launching a mobile application to offer a common platform for persons of like minds to share experiences in dealing with security threats.
The battle against violent extremism needs to be won at the local level. In Mali, terrorist groups are looking to establish their foothold in rural communities where the presence of the state is limited or in existence. In Burkina Faso, extremist groups target local state officials and school teachers, forcing them to abandon their posts. In both cases, local communities are left at the forefront of the resistance against violent extremism. I believe that we cannot stop the expansion of violent extremism without the direct, active involvement of local communities and their grassroots organizations. In my opinion, that role is twofold. First of all, we need to have an ongoing dialogue at the community level about the nature of violent extremism and terrorism.
Some members of the Muslim community at Amuzo Copper at Kaso and the Central Region are vowing to defend till death a tract of land they say serves as their cemetery. The aggrieved members gathered on the land Thursday morning to confront a private developer who deployed some earth-moving machines to destroy the fence wall and level the land. They told Joy News they are bona fide owners of the land in contention and will not allow any work on it. The developer, Edwin Ansa Hortman, also known as Tutu Jamang, however, insists he is the rightful owner of the land. Maxwell Agbagba has more in this report.
The men who gathered on the disputed land were about 100. One of them steps forward to lead the group to continue the protest. They vowed to stop any construction by the developer. One of their leaders, Alhaji Ibrahim Mosi, said heads will be lost in the struggle.
So I make word and I make serious in the night and day. So I want everybody to hear like that. The one where you go come here, they said no be die self. They said that they commode heads. I said somebody had to go.
Another claimant, Sariki Isa Muhammad, says until the developer reconstructs the fence of the cemetery, they will not make Accra habitable for him.
See, look at the wall, the first wall. You destroy all. So we want that also Jama to know that he's coming to do our thing for us. Other than that, he's not going to sleep in Accra here. This Accra here, there, he's not going to. We'll look for him. We'll look for him. We'll go and find him. He don't want anybody to come here again. He should forget about those in document and those who go and take his money from the place he bought the land. Burying people here. They bury people. Where we are standing now, they've buried people here. You see?
The attempt to develop the land, according to them, amounts to desecration.
Every Muslim in Ghana, we are cemetery with this. We can't get into soldier man to come and take this cemetery. We take we money by.
I've been speaking to the district commander of Kaswa Ofanko. He says he'll be meeting the two feuding factions tomorrow. Both sides claim they have genuine documents indicating their ownership of this land.
Lucky enough, I was able to get in touch with the director, Sujamai, and we've agreed that tomorrow morning, inshallah, we meet and address this issue. What I was told was that he came with a place from Accra, yeah, and me being a nearer, I need to come myself and then ascertain what is actually going on. But
in a follow-up interview with the private developer Edwin Ansa Hortman, popularly known as Sujaman, he insisted he is the rightful owner of the land. He tells Maxwell Agbagba the Court of Appeal sometime in 2016 ruled in his favor and subsequently ordered the Muslim community to exhume the bodies on the land. Mr. Hortman says he has a court order to clear the land.
So last week, I get a police court order for demolition. So 3 days ago morning, we went and demolished the place. So the land belongs to me. I have all my documents, court order, everything, judgment. From court, they go to appeal court. They lost all the case. The land is, I bought the land 2006, and they came they came to claim the land 2011. It's not possible because the land is registered. I've registered the land at Cape Coast. Yeah. I've registered the land. So they don't have any land. And even the place is residential area. The place is not meant for a cemetery. It's residential area. I'm going to use it for residential purpose, not cemetery. So that's my case.
Okay. Now they are protesting and they are threatening that they are going to defend this with the last drop of their blood. Are you willing to let go?
Oh, court will decide. I have my documents, so whatever they can do, but I have the documents with me. I have the documents.
They're also claiming that you desecrated their cemetery because they had buried, bodies there, and you went to level it and all of that.
Before we went to court, around 2013, they buried 6 corpses on it.
In 2013?
Yeah. Okay. Court ordered them, fined them 20,000 Ghana. Ordered them to remove the corpse. And they agree on it. So I don't know the reason why they go back to Kofa to sell the same land to them to bury another corpse on the land. Even the 6, they haven't removed the 6.
We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime, but still ahead, government replies UN Special Rapporteur urging Ghana to recognize same-sex relationships.
A government has to legislate and say this is no longer criminal, but you cannot expose a large number of people.
Indeed, customs evolve as they are arguing. Then let's allow that evolution to take place. Why are they forcing the evolution?
We'll be back with all that and more. Stay tuned. The Controller and Accountant General's Department says it cannot be blamed for the alleged double salary payment to some minority members of Parliament. Head of Payroll, Elizabeth Osei, says they act on the instructions of the Office of the President to pay high-ranking government appointees, and that is exactly what they have done. She, however, says some reforms have been initiated since 2017 to avert such recurrence.
One thing I want you to be sure, understand, is that Controller and Accountant General does not pay parliamentarians. We have our own payroll system that pays only ministers. So it could be a minister MP, a minister non-MP. Once you are a minister, we pay you here. And our systems, I must say, does not speak to each other. The Parliamentary Service Payroll System and the Controller and Accountant General IPPD system do not speak to each other. So we know we have the mandate, because we are authorized by the Ministry of Finance to the salary structure that is given to us to pay ministers. So we expect these ministers will fill their input forms and justify why they must be paid here, and we pay them.
Isn't that part of the problem, that your systems don't speak to each other? So then someone may take a salary here and take another salary there?
It's possible, but then I don't see the risk here, looking at the caliber of people we are talking about. I said initially that Parliamentary Service is a subvented organization. It is autonomous. So Controller and Accountant General will not pay. It's just like any autonomous institution. The universities pay their own salaries. They take subvention from here and they pay. Controller does not go to verify how many lecturers, which lecturer is being paid and who is not being paid, because they have their own internal mechanisms to ensure that the right payments are made.
So if someone is blaming you for how come we had the double salary in particular with the ministers and MPs happening, you think you shouldn't be held responsible for the control?
Not at all. Controller and Accountant General must not be blamed. If we had paid them double on our payroll system, then you could blame us. But we have paid because we had a mandate to pay them, and we didn't pay beyond what we expected to pay. We paid just exactly what we expected to pay. Parliamentary Service is an autonomous entity, and it has all the structures, internal controls that should ensure that people are paid. So they also might have paid the right salaries or whatever is allowable to MPs. But then what we are saying is that the salary structures that we're giving categorically distinguishes between a minister and a non-minister, a minister NP and a minister non-MP. So we did just that.
So whose job is it then to do the cross-checking and ensure that this individual is not taking salary here and taking it there at the same time?
I think with this development, we're going to be introducing, we are going to introduce more structures to ensure that it's not possible in future. We have as part of our processes, a process that we have started since 2007 to migrate all subvented organizations onto the GOG payroll. So, as I said earlier, Parliamentary Service is a subvented organization. By that arrangement, Parliamentary Service is supposed to have come onto our payroll. It's a gradual process. We have migrated a number of them. The polytechnics were subvented organizations. As I speak, they are on a payroll. University of Professional Studies is on our payroll, Standard Board, and name it. Many other subvented organizations. I believe that if Parliamentary Service were on our payroll, this wouldn't have happened. So these are, I believe, some of the steps that my boss, the Controller and Accountant General, will be initiating very soon to ensure that these occurrences don't occur.
Government has replied to prompts by a visiting United Nations Special Rapporteur that Ghana recognize same-sex relationships. Special Rapporteur on Extreme Poverty and Human Rights, Philip Alston, told journalists in Accra Wednesday, government needs to decriminalize adult consensual same-sex conduct,
which LGBT people face every day in this country. I met with a number of representatives of that community, and they described how they were dismissed from jobs, how they were shunned from bars, how they were harassed in the streets, and so on. You can't change cultural attitudes overnight. I understand it. I know where the prejudice comes from. I know where it's rooted. But that's no excuse for a government. A government has to legislate and say this is no longer criminal. Whatever you think about it, you might not like it, but you cannot expose a large number of people.
But Minister of Information and Presidential spokesperson Mustafa Abdul Hamid says government will not be pressured to recognize same-sex relationships. He also rejected suggestions by the Special Rapporteur that Ghana is home to a significant population of gays and lesbians.
I'm not sure that we feel any Ghanaian or government feels pressured at all. Remember the late professor, may his soul rest in peace, said that this is our tradition, and something that is against our tradition, that we were not going to accept it. That position has not changed. Okay, for making this argument, I always like to use the Akan term for law, because they are talking about we need to make laws to, if you want, give some rights to gay and lesbian people. They talk about law, but in our Akan tradition, for example, law is called mra, anase or maimra. Now, if you translate maimra, it means law of the land, which is what is amamre, which is also custom. So law, custom, and tradition are inseparable entities. Are you following me? So it is not possible for our laws to accommodate gayism and lesbianism, except, of course, somebody can argue from a scholarly point of view that customs evolve. If indeed customs evolve as they are arguing, then let's allow that evolution to take place. Why are they forcing the evolution? Evolution is not forced. You know, evolution comes with the times. So they should let it roll. And then let's see whether in our lifetime that evolution would occur or not. So quite frankly, I don't know a gay or lesbian person. I don't. So if they were such a significant people, I would know them. You know, as I know, for example, drunk people, you know, or even, if you want, even drug addicts and so on. You know those ones. But I don't know any gay. So if they were really such numerous, I'm sure we would know them. So I don't believe him.
The minister also reiterated government's commitment to fulfill its campaign promises, especially its flagship One District, One Factory initiative.
I am, quite frankly, hard-pressed at understanding the basis for saying that they cannot be achieved. He says that Ghanaian politicians are, if you want, used to sloganeering, and that beyond the slogans, those objectives would not be met. And I'm saying to you that all of the things that we sloganeered about, if you want, are things that we have taken concrete steps since we came into office to realize. You know, of course, the lead one being the free senior high school program. We've done planting for food and jobs. We've restored trainee allowances. We've restored nursing training allowances. These, in addition to One Village, One Dam, 1 million per constituency, and One District, One Factory, were basically the cornerstones of our campaign. In terms of the 1 million per constituency, the projects have already started in various constituencies across the country, more specifically the water systems and the toilet facilities. And so for him to also say that he doubts that these will alleviate the poverty of the people. Is also another matter that we disagree about. We believe that within a generation, Ghana can achieve a status beyond aid. And I keep saying that a generation is generally defined as a period between 20 and 30 years.
We're taking a break here on Journey's Prime to bring you the business news. But still ahead, a 32-year-old man said to live a very lavish lifestyle has been trending on social media over reports he's a wanted man. We'll tell you about the man, Ibra. Business news is next.
Hello again. Time now for business. The Millennium Development Authority, MIDA, has announced the selection of Filipino company Meralco Consortium to manage the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG. This follows completion of an international competitive procurement process, the evaluation of the proposals received from the management and operation of the electricity distribution business of the ECG. CEO of the Millennium Development Authority, Martin Ison Benjamin, confirmed the announcement to George Wiafi via telephone.
This is a company which has been operating for 115 years. I am aware that the technical and the financial evaluation that were done put them at about 94%, which meant that they were certainly in a position to take on the job that they had applied to do. You must know that these are independent evaluators. MIDA does not directly involve itself in this arrangement. So the experts that came together had evaluated, and after that, then the board looks at what the experts have brought and decides on the basis of whatever is available to them, which ones they want to select. And mind you, all these companies were pre-qualified, which meant that they were all seen to be capable of doing what it is that they had indicated that they would do. But if there are only two players, by all means, there'll be one winner.
That's that. For you, what is next? For you, what is next?
This is a government procurement. And therefore, what we did was, BIDA is a facilitator. We would put together the people who are going to do things, locate them somewhere, bring independent people together, and after which all the proposals will have to go through the board. And after the BIDA board has examined and negotiations are taking place, and the negotiations are with Ghana government. It's not with MIDA. MIDA does not involve itself in the negotiation. The government is giving out an asset, and therefore they put their best foot forward by bringing the right people together to negotiate the right terms with the preferred bidder, after which the document would then have to go before cabinet, for cabinet to look at the agreement that they've reached. And having done that, pass this on to Parliament. For Parliament is also to discuss the document and the agreement before it's finalized.
Moving on, energy analyst Ishmael Ejukumhene has renewed call for a review of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, which mandates the Ministry of Finance to make allocations from the revenue from the sale of oil. The call follows a research conducted by the Kumasi Institute of Technology and Environment, KITE, which confirms that many of the projects earmarked under the oil fund were not available despite many budgetary allocations. Ishmael Ejukumhene made a call in an interview with Joy Business after presenting the findings of the 7-year research by KITE.
The report by the Kumasi Institute of Technology and Environment, KITE, reveals that out of 10 regions in the country, the Western region received the highest project funding from the oil and gas revenue, followed by the Greater Accra region. The 3 northern regions also received the least in terms of budgetary support from the oil and gas revenue, followed by the Central region, Brongahafo, among others. According to the Executive Director, Ishmael Ejukumhene, more than half of the projects that were supposed to be executed with resources as at the time of the research was non-existent. This confirms earlier reports by the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, about non-existent projects in some parts of the three northern regions. In an interview, Dr. Ejekumhene suggested that some portions of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act should be amended to give specific responsibilities to certain state agencies.
We think that there should be some more changes. One of the things that we believe should be changed is we need to be a little bit more precise when it comes to how the Ministry of Finance should report back to us as to how the monies, because they disperse the monies. The reports at the moment, they just dump a list of projects and put it there. Sometimes they don't even have locations. Okay, how is PIAC? I told you how we went to places where there were no projects and we were led to other communities. We didn't find those projects. There has to be some changes. There has to be some clear instructions to the people who are supposed to be doing what they are doing to know that we won't accept anything. They do well by submitting reports. Mandatory reports, the Ministry of Finance always submit those reports when they are presenting the budget, but they lack details and you can't monitor that. That has to be enshrined either through amendment or through the regulations that they are developing for the law. And if you do that, then we don't just accept. Parliament will just look at it and say, do you meet the criteria, the format that you need to use? It's a strong recommendation that we believe we all need to take seriously. Otherwise, another 10 years we'll be here.
On his part, chairman of the PIAC, Dr. Stephen Mantel, couldn't agree more with the suggestion.
In my view, some of the defects in the PRMA can be cured through regulations. Incidentally, the regulations are not in place yet. I'm aware that there are draft regulations, and I happen to have been part of the team that worked on it. So whatever the concerns are, I think we can take another look at the regulations and see how, through regulations, we can address the weaknesses in the law.
The energy think tank concludes that the annual budgetary fund amount has been rendered ineffective because of the decision to thinly spread over several projects, thereby minimizing its potential transformational impact. Ebenezer Sabute's report for Joy Business.
The Bank of Ghana says it is yet to establish the cost of recent regulatory actions on some banks said to be in financial distress. Some of these interventions have resulted in the collapse of UT, Capital Banks, and also the taking over the management of Unibank. All these actions have resulted in some cost to the state, resulting in government planning to issue a $2 billion bond to support the situation. Some industry persons have questioned the impact of this move on the taxpayer. Head of Banking Supervision, Osei Jesse, however, tells Joy Business the action justifies the cost incurred so far.
Capital Bank and UT Bank, these are two banks that were deeply insolvent. Deeply insolvent. You see, when we say a bank is insolvent, what it means is that that bank doesn't have enough assets to cover its liabilities. So the liabilities of the bank put together, the total, is more than the assets of the bank. So you have a situation where the assets of the bank put together is less than the liabilities of the bank. Then you have an insolvent bank or an insolvent institution.
Couldn't the Bank of Ghana have done anything about it, looking at the peculiarity of the situation that these banks were going through?
These are banks that had moved from one stage to the other, from undercapitalized, significantly undercapitalized, and now deeply insolvent. So the best decision was to put these banks under receivership, and that's exactly what we did, because all the options were considered, and we also looked at the resolution options available as far as the law is concerned. And a bank that is deeply undercapitalized, the regulator thought that the best decision to take was to take the licenses back and put them under receivership.
Some will say that if it's about solvency, then there were other players in the industry that were facing similar problems and that were given some grace period or given some time to correct that problem. Was that same extended to UT and Capital Bank?
You see, look at solvency from this perspective. Banks that are undercapitalized, banks that are significantly undercapitalized, and banks that are insolvent or deeply insolvent. So, in the case of UT and capital banks, they were in a different category. They were deeply insolvent. If you failed to ensure that the right decision was made at the appropriate time, the longer it takes, the more the liabilities exceeds the assets. You get what I mean? And as the liabilities continue to exceed the assets, what it means is that you are accumulating more losses. And at the end of the day, it's going to cost the taxpayer more. So the decision to resolve those two banks was taken at the appropriate time, and it was the right decision.
And that's all we have for you in business tonight. Many thanks for watching. My name is Emmanuel Abuachi. We are
The 2018 Cocoa Barometer report by Solidaridad Network is revealing how efforts made to address challenges of cocoa farmers continue to take a nosedive, thus threatening the future of the sector. The report indicated that the fluctuations of cocoa prices on the international market have largely impacted negatively on the revenues of millions of farmers, as well as on the budgetary revenues of cocoa-growing countries, particularly Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire. The 98-page report, which focused on two thematic areas, ensuring a living, income, and transparency and accountability, further revealed how over 2 million Ghanaian children continue to work in the sector despite measures put in place by government to reduce child labor. We will get into some of their findings and recommendations, but first listen to a report by my colleague Justice Baidu, who visited JJ Nkwanta in the Western region to ascertain whether or not the toils of cocoa farmers are reflecting in their development.
Emmanuel Oti is in her late 50s and has been farming cocoa here since 1987. He earns around 5,000 cedis a year from his cocoa harvest. From that, he struggles to put his 5 children through school.
Farmers dear, yeah, near Disica Ebra or minor, but a bino cross says CA. This is all your cocoa price, a war, a butcher. As
for cocoa farmers, we are the ones whose work fuel the country. But if you look at the amount that it is sold on the world market and the price that government gives us, then it's not fair. They use our money to pay government workers. I can say the government is cheating us.
Joshua Na is a cocoa buyer who works in JJ Nkwanta. He has been in this business for over 10 years.
Apart from say about 2 abano mobile have a campaign, 2 abano no mudin kunivia,
we are always complaining. The people who are supposed to solve our problems only deceive us. We only produce the cocoa, but we can't do anything with it. Take the Cocoa Board Scholarship, for example. We only hear about it. Every year, they come and tell us, the farmers, to apply. But go around and ask all the farmers in this community. No one has ever benefited before.
Scholarship okay.
Getting cocoa ready for the export market is a tedious job requiring many hands and investment. But these men and women endure the back-breaking venture. I have come to one of the farms where harvesting is ongoing. Here I meet Ebenezer Tete, a third-generation cocoa farmer.
Baby bi wo ho a ese ka kokra kofa kuku ebia ne medie ya yetu agu ho ikura hwe baby a yefri a ye ko hata kuku yi so afu na na
it affects us a lot. There are places that are far from the market, and yet there are no roads. Look at where my farm is. We have to walk and carry the cocoa bags on our shoulders. Because the roads are bad, no car wants to come here.
JJ Nkwanta is one of hundreds, probably thousands of farming communities hidden in large swaths of cocoa farmland this side of Ghana.
Now, our great correspondent Joseph Opugako joins me in the studio with key findings in the 2018 Cocoa Barometer report by Solidarity Network. Now, Gakpo, tell us what's the rationale behind this report?
To highlight the very critical issues within the cocoa sector, and it points to how sufficient attention is not being given to cocoa farmers and cocoa farming generally. The report focused on West Africa because you know that Ghana and Ivory Coast actually dominate. Yes, we produce more than 60% of the cocoa, and there were two specific thematic areas that this Cocoa Barometer report focused on. Then they are ensuring a living income when it comes to cocoa farmers and how much they make, and also transparency and accountability. Those are the two central issues.
Now, one of the key findings that came up in the report is child labor in the cocoa sector. There's talk about the fact that there are about 2.1 million children involved in child labor in the sector. But I thought this was an issue that was resolved a long time ago.
You know, there's this controversy that a lot of these children are being taken to the farm because they need to learn the trade. Everyone does that. The traders do that. The artisans do that. But
in the cultural context, we actually don't see it as child labor.
And it remains a controversial issue because there are manuals that have been produced in collaboration with our development partners that clearly spell out, that clearly spells out what children can do, which then amounts to child work, and what children cannot do, which then amounts to child labor. And that's where usually the fine line is difficult to differentiate because, for example, when it comes to the spraying of pesticides, the manuals are very emphatic that these are hazardous activities that you shouldn't let children do, to the extent that when you are spraying the fields, they shouldn't be there because it has the potential to harm them. And so when that is flouted, then it's considered as a case of child labor. Even when it comes to very basic work like fetching water and getting to the farm, if the child is doing that during working hours, it's considered as something that will negatively impact his, not during working hours, but during school hours. It's considered as something that will negatively impact his education, which then makes it child labor and not exactly child work. So, usually that's what becomes the gray area. But the report makes the point that they actually casting doubt on a promise by Ghana and Ivory Coast that by 2025 they would have eliminated incidents of child labor. They make the point that, and I'm quoting directly from the report, not a single company or government anywhere is nearing the reach when it comes to the sector-wide objective of eliminating child labor, and not even near the commitment of a 70% reduction by the year 2020. So that's the first block of it by 2020, when the promise is that it will be reduced by 70%. They say we are not reaching that. And then there are other key findings which have to do with how programs in the cocoa area, when it comes to technical solutions and farming activities, the support that needs to get to farmers in that regard is being hampered thanks to issues about political power and the economy generally.
All right. What are the recommendations they're making?
So they're recommending that living income and farmer livelihoods become key cornerstones when it comes to discussions relating to the cocoa industry. They think it's not being prioritized enough, so there's the need for us to do that. They go on to say that companies that operate within the structure again should make discussions around ending structural poverty within the cocoa industry a key issue. Everything that they do needs to be aimed at doing that. Child labor is another key thing that they make mention of in the recommendations they make. They say there is the need for increased income to farmers to be able to help do that, because they think it's to a certain extent a poverty problem, and they think we need a lot more infrastructure that is child friendly within the cocoa growing areas.
All right, thank you very much, Joseph Opoku-Garko. He is a great correspondent here. We're taking a break here. Imagine getting injured, but your blood never clots to stop the bleeding. That's the situation many people in Ghana and others around the world with hemophilia find themselves. On World Hemophilia Day, advocates of people with such conditions are calling on government to support them manage their conditions. Richard Kojonyako has more.
Hemophilia is a medical condition in which the ability of the blood to clot is severely reduced, causing the sufferer to bleed severely from even a slight injury. This happens when one's blood lacks sufficient blood clotting proteins. The situation makes affected persons bleed for a longer time after an injury than they would if their blood clotted normally. So far, 300 people have been identified and diagnosed in Ghana with hemophilia and have been placed in a society to be supported. Speaking at the World Hemophilia Day in Cape Coast, President and founder of the Hemophilia Society in Ghana, Martin Boache, called on government to lend a helping hand to help people with such plights.
Because it's blood being lost in the system, you need blood infusion. Sometimes you also have to have access to blood plasma, frozen plasma, or the next level is called cryoprecipitate, all in an attempt to stop the bleed. Beyond that, the best form of cure is what we call factor concentrate, that you need to procure, very expensive as I said, and the injection can stop a bleed in a very short time. And for the kids, one injection costs about $1,200, and when the boy is of age like 15 years, if he has a lot of weight, you need about $2,000 per injection to be able to stop a bleed. So it's a very expensive way of treating. And that's the only option that can guarantee stopping the blood. We don't really import. We have World Federation of Hemophilia and other pharmaceutical companies outside who support with donations. So for us, we are constantly on the move around the whole world, trying to look for the sources of the factors for in the form of donation or support, so that we can get them ready for our patients who come for the drugs for free, because they cannot afford one injection at $1,200, and they need 3 injections a week.
Central Regional Director of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Alexis Nangbe-Fuba, says people should be aware of rare diseases that are sweeping across the world. He says things used not to be how they were anymore, and there should be a deliberate move to deal with such situations when they arise.
Increasingly common. Gone are the days that we used to say cancers were very rare in Africa. Under diabetes, non-communicable diseases today are very rare in Africa. With the growing population and increasing life expectancy, we expect rare diseases to surface and be counted. So it therefore behoves on us to open our eyes, increase the index of suspicion so that we'll be able to diagnose them.
The World Hemophilia Day is celebrated in April every year. Richard Kojonyako, Joy News, Cape Coast.
2 towns in the Ashanti region, Kaira and Ajamesu, have for several years had to grapple with water scarcity. Residents had to contend with rationing the commodity even from a stream. The situation has however changed following the commissioning of 2 separate boreholes for each of the communities. Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin reports.
This is the only source of water we have, and we are exposed to different diseases, including cholera, among others.
That was the plight of residents of Kaira in the Offenso South municipality. They relied on this stream for supply of water for their daily needs. Now, this is the new face of the community.
I'm Bawa Zinabu from Offenso Kaira.
When I came here over 6 years now, we always struggle how to get water to cook. Drink was a very big problem. But today we are able to get a very quality water which will help us get all our problems solved.
Even if we get 5 more boreholes here, it will help because of our population and the number of schools in the community. The project is expected to ensure uninterrupted supply to residents here and nearby communities. Same project has been constructed at Ajamanso in the Bekwai municipality. Charity organization World Development Foundation of Saudi Arabia financed the projects. Abdel Sattar Musa is country representative.
So we chose this area because of their, indeed, they need water, because if you look at the area, there is no water they used to have their life.
Mr. Musa underscores proper maintenance of the facility while committing to continued assistance to more communities. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin reporting.
In most homes, refrigerators are on 24/7 to preserve foods. But that means a lot of electricity cuts, especially if you don't have an energy efficient option. Well, there's now an app that's got a database of all refrigerators imported into the country. And with just a click, you tell how much electricity the refrigerator you are buying anywhere in Ghana is. Joining us is Derek Kosamas, details of the certified refrigerating app for Tech Thursday today.
The certified refrigerating app has a field for the model number of the refrigerator. You just enter the numbers and click search. The monthly power consumption of the refrigerator as well as the monthly bill in Ghana cedis is displayed, so you know how much you have to pay in electricity bill each month. Kofi Edu Ejako is the Director of Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency at the Energy Commission.
The app has been developed to assist consumers in their attempt to select and know, actually identify which refrigerating appliance is energy efficient and authentic, that has gone through our screening system so that consumers are not shortchanged by any greedy supplier. If you download the app can provide you 3 major services. The first service is that in case you find yourself in the shopping floor, on the yellow label that is affixed on the appliance, it always comes with model numbers. So check on the model number and input the model number in the app. If you do that, and if it is actually certified, it will give you all the information that you need to help you make an informed decision as to whether or not to buy. It will give you the star rating. It will give you the consumption in kilowatt hours, and then how much you pay in cedis. And that can help you to compare a lot of fridges in the shop, and then you finally take a decision as to which one to buy.
And it's got some benefits for the Energy Commission too. Mr. Jacko says the certified refrigerating app also shows which shops sell the brand of refrigerator you want to buy.
Within about 14-kilometer radius of your location, the app can give you a tall list of nearby shops. And because the app is location sensitive, it is linked to Google Map. So even if you have no idea regarding the direction, the map can lead you to the shop. So it is a guide. And then it can also help you to make even a choice of the brand and the star rating that you want before you set off from home. You will find star rating in all the labels. It is from 1 star to 5 star. The more the stars, the more efficient the appliance is. If we say the more efficient the appliance is, it simply means that the less energy it consumes. It assists us also to screen and ensure that we do our work well as watchmen for the ordinary consumer.
The user-friendly app, according to the Energy Commission, also helps to track unauthorized sellers who try to swindle customers. So download, drop your model number, and get to know your refrigerator better. Derek Ekosam's report for Joy News.
Structural work on the much-anticipated $25 million whole airport facility project is complete. The aviation minister who inspected work is however unable to say when flights can land and take off. The airport, when fully operational, is expected to accelerate growth of the economy in the area, promote inter-regional trade and tourism. Fred Kwame Asari's report.
The whole airport, designed to receive about 150,000 passengers annually, is situated on a 400-acre perimeter at Adaklu, Womenu, located about 10 minutes drive from the Volta regional capital, Ho. Amandi Holdings began work on the airport in September 2015 under the erstwhile Mahama-led government. Construction works on a 1.6-kilometer airstrip, a taxiway, an apron, a perimeter fence, 2 parking bays, and access roads to the airport have been completed. The terminal building attached with the traffic control tower has also been structurally completed with appropriate facilities. The aviation minister, Cecilia Dapa, who inspected the project in the company of the Volta regional minister, Dr. Archibald Letta, and other officials in the aviation sector, expressed satisfaction at work delivered.
The terminal building arrival and departure we have seen. What is left, you can all see, is the furnishing, the staff, the commissioning, and the planes that will do business between Ho and other towns in Ghana or outside Ghana. The work so far is good. It's the operationalization. When we start using, then we'll appreciate it more.
The whole airport project, which will cost about $25 million, was funded by the Ghana Airport Company, with Amandi Holdings taking charge of the construction work. Fred Kwame Asare, Joy News.
The governing New Patriotic Party goes to the polls on Saturday, April 21, to elect regional executives for the party. Ahead of the elections, one of the candidates, Mordecai Kwashe, speaks of how he intends to resource and train grassroots members, as well as streamline the party's cash inflows. He spoke with my colleague Gifty Andopia earlier on the polls.
In the party, one thing that is critical to the party's longevity in power is rewarding and resourcing the foot soldiers and avoiding the kind of apathy and dissatisfaction that occasions a party that has been in power for long. And so this is internally, this is what we can do to ensure the party remains vibrant, the party remains responsive, the party members feel appreciated and rewarded, and therefore they can go out and do the work that they did to bring us to power. Okay. If you've been involved in party activity for long, you realize that when the party is in opposition, the people are very passionate because they want to come to power. But when they're in power, and what happens is that aspirations are not, people don't achieve, are not met, disappointment comes in, disaffection starts, and if it's not handled properly, by the time you get to your second term, really you don't have a structure. I work with the chairman and the executive to improve the relationship between MMDs and the party. Okay. And because that is key from inside. It's a very important thing. Both groups need to work together for success. The MMDA in implementing the president's agenda in the locality, and the party in achieving the their aspirations within the context of the local assembly. And so I think that I'm very well positioned to win this election. I'm confident that with the help of the delegates, and I believe I have the help, I've been around, I've spoken to them, I have made commitments to them, I have sold my vision to them. They've seen me, my competencies, what I bring to the table. I'm convinced that they are convinced, and that come Saturday, they will do the right thing by the party and by themselves and vote for Mordecai Kwashi to become the regional treasurer. On the ballot paper, I am number one. You know, God works in mysterious ways. So I'm now one on the ballot paper, and I'm appealing to you guys out there. Come to the voting center early on Saturday, and remember, vote for Treasurer Mordecai Kwashi.
Social media is awash with an alleged money laundering activity that has landed one Ibra in the grips of the police. Though the police are not speaking to the fact that they're holding the suspect in custody, some social media conversations point to the fact that Ibrahim Dowda's arrest at the airport, when he was reported by a friend he owed $400,000. Now, you watched this video about him involved in some negotiation, sort of, to pay the alleged money he owed.
Even this watch will work, Gabi. Gabi, look straight into my eyes. Me. Ibra. Me. People are I know you give me money, but Gabi. Yes, between me and you are the come. Ibra. Baba to Ibra. Between me and you, Gabi. Between me and you, you think I will eat your money. Even if I'm not I tell you. Okay, you know why I block your number? Gabi, people, you guys shoot me. Some of them, they are money.
I'm not for my money. I just call you to cancel my sign agreement. Finish. Sign agreement. Sign. Why no I can sign? Ibra. Kagani eri baki gaba so Ibra. Kaba Ibra. GGG Ibra. G magana gaba so. Ni ba so na kana wona kaba asaka ciki kama ai da ma mugan ciki na. Aka ce da sa agreement. Kai da sa agreement amma ka ce asaka ciki. Ibra muka saka ciki kama mun rubu ne yake na.
All right, so we're getting information that he's actually being picked up for money laundering activities, but we are unable to confirm that with the police. The police are unavailable to speak to the issue, but he's been trending on Twitter for some days now. So if you go to the Ghana Trends right now, he is number 8, and there are some interesting tweets on it. But all out on screen now, some of the vehicles owned by Ibra, and he's said to own several flashy, luxurious vehicles, all registered in his name. But here's his Instagram account, Ibra1, and yeah, there you have him. Pretty lavish lifestyle, and he loves to flaunt it. So we're still trying to get some information on what actually is happening to this gentleman. We're trying to get that information from the police. Once we have that, we will be sharing that with you. For now, though, time now for a quick look at our top stories. Government has replied to the UN Special Rapporteur urging Ghana to recognize same-sex relationships. Says the Information Minister says government will not be pressurized. The Interior Minister has condemned the assault of journalist reporter Latif Idris by some police officers last month, but has urged journalists to be cautious in covering volatile situations. Special prosecutor insists he will not be distracted by legal suits challenging his eligibility to hold office. In business, Millennium Development Authority Media selects Filipino company Meralco Consortium as the preferred bidder to manage the electricity company of Ghana, ECG. And rival claimants to a parcel of land at Kaswa in the central region vowed to resist attempts by a private developer to build on it.